Long story short, morning arrived with the tournament hall already filled with spectators. The Raitai tournament this time contains fighters with the title Kaiyu from China and foreign fighters, namely Ali Jr., Yujiro Hanma, and Baki Hanma. Previously, Baki, who was poisoned by Yanagi's poisoned hands, was immediately brought to China for treatment. Seen back to when Ali Jr. meets Yujiro, this is their second meeting after many years. Yujiro discussed that the technique used by Ali was not boxing, but a mixed martial arts technique, which according to him was still not perfect. But Ali Jr. here is very confident and says that he has perfected his father's fighting style. But Yujiro only smiled as if he doubted Ali Jr.'s ability. Ali Jr., who felt doubted, immediately took his boxing gloves and challenged Yujiro if he didn't mind. However, Ali Jr. was taken aback by Yujiro's fast kick. Even so, Yujiro admits that Ali Jr.'s ability is almost equal to that of his father. After that, Yujiro suddenly lay down on the floor and told Ali Jr. that this was a move that Igari had fought against his father in the boxing ring 30 years ago. This deadly technique was specially designed to defeat Ali. Even if it looks trivial, Ali can't underestimate it. Yujiro then asked Ali Jr. what he would do if he encountered an enemy with the same technique. Ali Jr. then paused for a moment and answered why defeat an enemy who had voluntarily attacked. Ali Jr. said that martial arts was created for those who feel weak and not to give vent to their ambitions. And if he meets the enemy already resigned, why fight? It's better for him to leave him. Yujiro felt very offended by Ali Jr.'s words, even though he had bothered to do the technique. Long story short, the scene has shifted to Beilin in China, where Ali Jr. intends to participate in the Great Raitai tournament. Master Ryu greeted him already knowing that his guest was the son of the legendary Muhammad Ali. Master Ryu allows him to participate, but he must prove his worth if he deserves to enter the Raitai tournament. Ali Jr. has to face one of Master Ryu's big students. Ali Jr. was surprised that his enemy immediately used the lying down technique as Yujiro had said back in Tokyo. Ali, who had been silent, then looked down and turned to allow the enemy to attack him first. Master Ryu is surprised by Ali Jr.'s ability. The scene moves on to two brothers with the title of Kaiyu Kung Fu Master, where his younger brother is one of the most feared poison hand users in China. This grand Raitai tournament meant a lot to him to defend his title so long. He would never be compassionate towards anyone, even if it was his own brother. The next day, the tournament on the first day of the fight began where 12 Kaiyu Kung Fu masters from various universities in China and even the Muay Thai stream from Thailand gathered to earn the Kaiyu title. Dorian, with the title Kaiyu from America, accompanied by Oliva as his prison supervisor, also came. Besides that, there are Baki and Yujiro who come from Japan. This fight will also be enlivened by the former defending champion, Raitai, 100 years ago. Yesterday's tournament champion, who is now 146 years old, who will again participate in the Great Raitai tournament, namely Master Kaku. In this way, the fighters will become 16 people who will fight for the title of true Kaiyu Master with the opponent's structure that has been prepared. They are all asked to disperse. Now the first battle is between Master Ryu, the god of war, and Yujiro, the strongest being on earth. The guests hesitate before the fight starts. The tournament board wants to test the ability of the foreign fighter, Yujiro. Is it really worth it in this tournament to ask him to break a thick pile of tiles that are claimed to be very sturdy? Obviously, this is very ridiculous to Yujiro, but he has to let the audience know. While approaching Ryu's master, Yujiro wants to start his fight, but before that, Yujiro says that Master Ryu's 100 years of training is a waste. Master Ryu, who was starting to get emotional, started to launch his attacks, but unfortunately, Yujiro's finger penetrated the skin of his face faster and then tore it. It seemed that Master Ryu's skin was ripped off his head with just one strike from Yujiro and was thrown towards the tournament board. Had claimed the victory of the fight, but suddenly Retsu appeared, who could not accept that his teacher had to be injured due to the excessive attack from Yujiro. He again challenges Yujiro to fight him, but Master Ryu approaches. He feels insulted by Retsu, who took over his fight, and thinks he is still capable of fighting and still strong against Yujiro. This short battle was won by Yujiro with a kick that smashed his face. Long story short, the next fight was announced between Muhammad Ali Jr. against a man named Caillou Zhou. Meanwhile, Ali Jr. himself was still practicing his boxing. Then the fight started. Ali Jr. was surprised that his opponent was big and tall. Ali then aimed his fist at Zhou's genitals. Zhou was in so much pain that he fell, but Zhou got back up and attacked, but Ali Jr. easily faced him and managed to beat Zhou. The next tournament is between Poisonous Lee and Baki. Meanwhile, Baki himself still has to vomit blood with his condition getting worse. Then came Retsu saying that his opponent was a man named Lee, who was a very famous poison hand specialist in China. Retsu also supports Baki when he confronts Lee, who uses the poison. But here, the one whose mind is tormented is Kazue, who thinks Retsu is very selfish, pushing Baki in constant danger. But Baki continues to convince Kazue that having Kazue beside him is enough to give him courage and courage. Long story short, the third battle begins. Baki, who is thin due to poison, must fight a man named Lee Caillou, who uses poison hands, and without further ado, Baki quickly attacks. Unfortunately, Baki's kick hits Lee's poisoned hand, resulting in a sudden big blue bump on his leg. Baki realized the danger of poison if left unchecked, immediately sucked all the blood in the lump. Baki then attacked him again and was knocked away easily. For some reason, Lee's poisoned hands turned back to normal and shrunk, while Baki was still lying in a corner of the field. Kazue, who was sitting nearby with a flat and resigned face, saw the burly body that often hugged him. Now it really changed, unlike before. But in a very deep heart, Kazue tried to dismiss the fact that Baki was still the same as before. Nothing had changed for him. While crying, her tears rained down on Baki and made Baki wake up again. As if recovering from his illness, Retsu realized that Baki was almost healed. Likewise, Yujiro Hanma assumed that it was this attack that made Baki recover. Yujiro tells that in 1546, the Ming dynasty from China passed down poisoned hands to Japan with a 7-scroll discussing the method of producing poisoned hands. In the past, the Japanese military commander named Yoshimoto Imagawa only allowed ninjas who studied the technique, until finally the technique was continued to be taught for 4 centuries before modern civilization came. The fact is that China is very smart. The poison hand scrolls are not 7, but there are still 5 more that were not given to Japan. The 7 scrolls teach yin, and the 5 scrolls teach yang, and the perfect stage is those that learn the 12 scrolls, the balance of yin and yang. Baki felt his body begin to feel better and lighter, encouraging him to serve Lee. Yujiro Hanma here realized with Baki's current abilities that Lee's attack and his poisoned hands had an effect on Baki's body, neutralizing the poison and expelling the poison in his brain. This, coupled with the euphoria or encouragement from her boyfriend, gave Baki a big push to get up. Baki then easily defeats Lee and rushes to Kazue to prove that he is healed. Then Baki hugged Kazue. Baki's condition is getting better now. Long story short, to welcome Baki's recovery, Retsu provides many dishes for Baki to eat. It was clear that after several weeks he had no appetite. Now Baki wanted to eat everything in front of him. After finishing with the food, now it's time for dessert. Then Retsu asked Baki to drink 10 liters of water mixed with 4 kilos of fructose or sugar made from fruits. It is known that the fructose it contains is easily absorbed by the body, even though Baki's body is being poisoned. Baki was shocked after drinking the fructose water. His body recovered very quickly, and his body returned to normal. The next fight is between the defending champion Master Kaku, who will fight a man named Samwon Caillou from Thailand, who is 25 years old, where the age difference between the two of them is 121 years. But he was very easily defeated by yesterday's Reitai champion. Master Kaku approached him and attacked his enemy's vital organs. Which man does not lose his head after being attacked by his genitals? After the fight was over, the stiff master was attacked by journalists for his short fight. but he flicked the journalist's head, saying that the principle in fighting does not require strength to fight, but a technique, because strength is not the main thing in a fight. Moving on to Baki in a room full of damp mist coming from Baki's body, which was still resting its organs, and Baki, who was starting to wake up, felt a fitter body than before. Meanwhile, it was Dorian's turn, who had the title Caillou, who was completely mentally and physically disturbed due to the previous battle. While eating candy, Oliva keeps an eye on his prisoner. Seeing Dorian's attitude and condition had made the audience doubtful, while his opponent was a master named Yo. After the signal started, Yo started to attack Dorian. Until the candy fell, Dorian only focused on the candy regardless of Yo's attack. But it's a shame that Dorian, who didn't know anything, had to be horribly injured without any significant resistance. Then came Oliva, who returned the candy to Dorian's mouth. Dorian spontaneously woke up without faltering. Oliva led Dorian out of the arena and made the audience appreciate the resilience of Dorian's body, even though he was mentally disturbed. Yo does not accept that Dorian, who is in such a situation, gets the Caillou title and asks for the match to be repeated again. Oliva tries to tell Yo that Dorian is sick and Dorian only joins the tournament to abort the fight. But if you still don't accept it, Oliva offers to be his opponent. Long story short, after getting approval from the tournament board, it was reported that there would be a special match between Oliva, Dorian's assistant, and Yo, which made the audience interested. They had faced each other. Yo said arrogantly that his body had been trained in various situations and conditions, starting with chain attacks, being run over by a truck, being shot by a cannon, bathing in a 30-meter-high waterfall until morning, and now he invited Oliva to test his body's resilience then. Happily, Olivia accepted his offer. In fact, Yo's training was in vain and had lost by 1 review to Oliva. Long story short, the fight for the 6 first rounds will be filled by a man with the title Caillou from Japan named Jiaku, a kendo elbow practitioner who will fight against a Chinese Caillou named Sin, who represents his school. Without further ado, he immediately attacked Jiaku, who was knocked away. Then Sin revealed that the fruit of Chinese martial arts combined passion into his fists, which made Chinese martial arts superior to any other country. As well as adding environmental elements such as soil, it can be a deadly attack, he said. Sin is still confused as to why a foreigner can get the title of Caillou, but I think it's just a title. Baki meets his father asking to fight him because he thinks that if he can surpass his father's abilities even a little, then he will easily defeat his father. Then his father Yujiro remembers the last time 4 years ago Baki challenged him and ended in defeat. However, Yujiro casually said not to push the situation too hard while looking at the trembling Baki, who was originally scared to challenge his father. The match continues between Sun Caillou, the man with the gold ring, and Retsu. Sun reveals that he has had these rings on his finger for 7 years, specifically for him to take them off to give Retsu a hit. But the fact was that it didn't matter to Retsu, as it turned out that Retsu's grip was much stronger than his. According to Caillou's ability now, the level has decreased, he said. Long story short, Retsu, along with other fighters and several tournament boards, faced the reigning champion, Master Kakak. He asked Retsu how he felt in this tournament. Retsu honestly said that having the title Caillou now made him very disappointed. Many were far from worthy words for him, plus according to Master Kaku, only the 2 of them won the first 7 rounds of genuine Chinese fighters. The rest were foreign fighters. Then, the stiff master asked the tournament council to show their hands and looked like a woman's curved hands. Long story short, Retsu said that the battle system would be changed, where the groups were divided into 2 groups between the Chinese fighters and the winners of the foreign fighters. Yujiro knew that those Chinese fighters didn't want this tournament to be won by a foreigner, making him laugh out loud. Retsu would support the winner of this tournament and vowed that 5 perfect matches would be won by them. However, Yujiro arrogantly reveals that he is capable of giving a 1-on-5 win. Now the official system has been changed, which has been agreed by the 2 task groups. Each fighter only has to win so as not to lose first on their team. Behind the ring, Yujiro, as the team leader, does not let the Chinese fighter team get 5 perfect wins, even though China has been known for 4,000 years of its martial arts. Now, Yujiro intends to turn that history into an absolute joke, and for the first time, Yujiro Hanma as a father invites his son to work with him. Even though Baki really hates his father. Even though they have a lot of problems with each other, they keep it for the sake of the cohesiveness of a team. Now Oliva is going to be first against Shobun Ron, and Yujiro, who welcomes him, asks him to prepare for his opponent. Then, in the middle, Oliva took off her shirt, leaving her underwear showing her big muscles. In contrast to Ron, who was more relaxed and introverted, with his hands in his pockets and an indifferent face without looking at his opponent. But that's a face that looks very dangerous. Oliva, who approached him quickly, gave a casual attack. But it turned out to have been responded quickly by Ron, who relaxed, holding it with one hand, with the other hand in his pocket. But it was clear that both of them were equally strong because you could see the cracked floor that was holding Oliver's punch. However, he was still faced casually by Ron, who held back Oliver's attack with one hand. With a quick movement of his hand out, giving an incision that was clear, no one would have thought Ron's dart just now was a hand as fast as a knife, and quickly his hand was back in his pocket. Back. When he was silent, Oliver put up the same stance by putting his hands to the sides of his perfect stance, imitating Ron's style and insinuating that Oliver was comfortable with this kind of stance. Seeing this, Ron reached out his hand and quickly slapped him with his motion so fast there was time for Oliver to fend it off. Oliver, who quickly fell down, got back up and did the same stance again and allowed Ron to attack him. Had gathered strength that was centered on his hand until it threw Ron, making him fall unconscious. Even Yojiro and the other spectators couldn't believe Oliver's attack that was able to topple Ron. But soon Ron was back on his feet. But Oliver, who was getting used to Ron's attacks, let him continue to attack him without resistance. Until it felt right, Oliver turned his head and started bullfighting with him. Now, with such a state, it is impossible for any quick hand attack to penetrate Oliver's thick abdominal muscles. Even the bullets were unable to penetrate it, making Ron's fingers on his own hand broken irregularly. Oliver was also sure that Ron had worked his hands must have been some unusual exercise. Likewise with him doing countless lengths of practice. Until finally the gong sounded. The first round battle between the two groups was won by Oliver. Obviously, the winning start made Yujiro proud of Oliver. However, it's different from Master Kaku, who is a little annoyed by those who have vowed to make 5 perfect wins but must be preceded by defeat. Had warned Shunsei that his opponent was the winner of the tournament in Japan. They need to be careful. Likewise, Baki, who is already in good shape, has prepared, and now 2 sons of equally strong fathers will compete. After the gong was sounded, Shunsei started to attack Baki's nerves, but Baki deftly dodged to the right and quickly reached his chin, causing his brain to shake repeatedly against the wall of the skull, and concussion could be fatal. But Baki, who added attacks from below, compounded the damage to his inner head and kept attacking, aiming for his head. Instantly, the audience was silenced by such a short battle. Baki from the start has been aiming for Shunsei's head continuously to make him unconscious. The gong sounds indicating to come out as the champion. Although they looked hostile this time, his father was very proud of his son. Shunsei came to his senses and woke up in the break room his father had been waiting for and felt a little disappointed at his defeat. Jiaku will be the next participant representing his team and promises Baki not to lose the fight. On the other hand, Kaku's master reminds Retsu not to lose, because if he loses, then the Chinese fighter will die and the reputation of 4,000 years of titles will be destroyed. The fight started instead of quickly attacking Jiaku, walking casually up to Retsu and asked him to shake hands, making everyone surprised and confused by what Jiaku was doing. But who would have thought that it was the start of an attack from him? The fact is that Jiaku's arms are still not strong enough to turn around with Retsu, who is much stronger, and slam him back. Jiaku got bounced along with the ridicule from the audience for being considered cheating. Jiaku again invites Retsu to shake hands with reactions that follow the way of playing in, "I want to serve his greetings." Again, Retsu knows what Jiaku wants to do. Now they are fighting each other's stomach muscles to make it difficult for Jiaku to slam him down. Retsu locked onto Jiaku, who was still doing the same for the third time. Inviting Retsu to shake hands, all the spectators were silenced, mixed with anger at Jiaku's fighting style. But Retsu still wanted to serve his greeting, and with his strength, Retsu brutally hit him without releasing his grip, but suddenly. Not wanting to waste this opportunity, he broke Retsu's arm. It was clear that the spectators who didn't accept them got down because there were a lot of people, but their steps were intercepted by Retsu, who asked them to come back. Now, with one hand still able to challenge Jiaku, Retsu, using his toes as a substitute for his hands, was able to slam Jiaku's body. Retsu then easily fights Jiaku after noticing that his hand wasn't broken and just sprained. Long story short, Jiaku apologized for having died in his battle. Due to the defeat, their group failed to get a perfect victory. Even so, Baki was quite surprised by Jiaku's ability to overwhelm Retsu. Meanwhile, in a different place, he was facing a Chinese fighter named Han Yi, who was going to fight Ali Jr. While the audience cheered and the gong sounded, Ali quickly shot his sights. Han Yi was amazed by Ali's punch, but unfortunately Ali didn't have the kicking technique. Ali easily knocked Han Yi down with only 2 boxing punches from him, but Han Yi, who still didn't accept, asked Ali to stop as if asking to continue the fight. The long-awaited match arrives, namely Yujiro, who has the title of the strongest being on Earth, who leads a team of foreign fighters, will fight with the previous Raitai champion Master Kaku, head of the Chinese Fighters Association. Before that, Yujiro had teased the stiff master, who he said swore to give the Chinese team a perfect victory, but in fact he had broken his promise. But even so, Yujiro greatly appreciates him, who has lived more than 100 years of his life dedicated to Chinese martial arts. He was the rigid master, and if he lost this battle, then the previous 3 wins would be meaningless. Once his team, along with Master Kaku, who had arrived, greeted his supporters. While attacking Yujiro with a wheelchair, Yujiro asked Kaku to quickly sit in his wheelchair. Then, while pushing around the ring, Yujiro asked Master Kaku about sacrifice and what you get until you can at this very old age. It's better to rest and live in peace, but instead preferring the end of his old age, torturing Ding Chinese martial arts training. Master Kaku started explaining in detail about his past as a martial logic master. That seems to be what Yujiro said, understanding that masters are rigid users of logic. Challenging a battle that relies on the power of chance, he holds the title of the strongest man on Earth. Now it will be the strongest power fighter against the greatest martial technique. Even though he looked evasive, in fact, Retsu knew that Kaku's master had been hit by Yujiro's attack, which shook his lower shoulder. It was a technique called shaori that was at a high level. This is deliberately ideal to do to reduce impact, just like swinging a knife trying to split a knife. But it's amazing that Master Kaku can act calmly, ready to receive an attack on his face, and without glasses. Master Kaku shattered against the wall, implying Yujiro's attack is really strong, and it's clear Retsu himself can't do that technique, even imitate it. Then Yujiro was surprised by the technique and already knew that it was an old technique and 4,000 years ago, where it was the same as when someone facing a face attack has a silent phase without moving. Yujiro returns to attack Master Kaku brutally and mercilessly. Stiff Master bounced many times, but still got back up and attacked Yujiro again. Yujiro was also overwhelmed and confused why Master Kaku didn't lose, when Yujiro was able to use the same style on him. But even so, Master Kaku was not surprised any further to know Yujiro's reputation as a genius and the title of the strongest creature on Earth. But now, Master Kaku challenges Yujiro against his shaori, which is more original. Even so, Yujiro refused to use shaori because the technique was not his normal style of fighting. While attacking, Yujiro suddenly stopped his attack because he realized that Master Kaku had died standing up suddenly, and the medical people who examined him confirmed that Master Kaku had died of old age. This made Yujiro angry and annoyed because he would win this fight a little more. but by dying before receiving his attack, as if the battle could be said to be without a winner. Long story short, in the medical room, all the nurses were shocked by the awakening of Kaku's master, who was previously confirmed to have died. It was clear that seeing Master Kaku come back to life shocked the rest of his team. Then he explained that his opponent was not human, even though he often fought wild animals. But this time, the title of Earth's strongest human being, naturally he almost died, he said. Master Kaku confirmed that the doctor thought he was dead indeed. At that time I felt his heart stop and his pupils dilated. Naturally, from a medical point of view, he considered himself dead. But he did that not without reason. Master Kaku did the same as every competition where one participant dies in the race, so there are no winners and no losers. He did so because the Chinese martial arts tournament would be ruined by this foreign side's win. Yujiro, who learned about the news, was not surprised and acknowledged Master's cleverness. In short, the story of the fight was over, although the initial system of fighting for the title was the greatest. Over time, it turned into a two-team battle between Chinese and foreign fighters with an unclear outcome. Even so, it seemed that all the spectators were smiling with satisfaction over this fight because their country was still safe from being said to lose because the end of the battle was unclear. In the evening, Yujiro meets with Master Kaku, and he says he agrees that Yujiro took the title of Real Wood, although many Chinese citizens and fighters find it difficult to accept. Yujiro, who doesn't need acknowledgement from people, just acknowledgement from Master Kaku is enough for him. Back at a place where Baki is practicing, he meets Ali. Ali asked how Baki could recover when it was almost impossible to avoid death. Baki fights because they are sure they will win, and there are those who run because they are sure they will lose, and being the strongest and weak is no longer attractive. Baki leaves Ali, but Ali himself will ensure that one day he will fight Baki. Long story short, the next day at a restaurant, Ali meets Kazue and reveals that he plans to fight with his girlfriend Baki. Then Kazue asked, why news about it? The first, according to Ali Kazue, is very important to Baki, who cannot be replaced, and the second, Kazi, is also very important to him and even wants to marry him. This obviously made Kazue surprised, but Kazue firmly refused. Then Ali calmly reveals that Kazue's closeness to Baki is not God's will, but a woman has the right to choose a male partner to be her partner, and now Ali will make sure that he will become that man while kissing Kazue lightly. Long story short, that night, Ali met Shibukawa, who he said was one of the fighters respected by Baki. Now Ali wants to challenge him to fight. Shibukawa is happy to serve him by starting to attack Ali. Had been thrown in astonishment by Shibukawa's fighting style, which had yet to be found. Even so, Ali didn't give up right away. This time he was about to start slamming his fists before it actually hit Shibukawa's face, and it was clear that this made Shibukawa offended because he felt pitied. But Ali here, the result is only harm to him. But pitying a martial artist is an act of impolite and belittling. It would be better for him to cripple Shibukawa by attacking his brain to make them faint. Moving on, Kazue complains to Baki that someone wants to propose to him. Baki tried to say that if Kazue's words were true, then he must be very, very angry. But Baki returns the decision to Kazue. It's all up to Kazue to choose which one because he has no rights over his heart. Obviously, this made Kazi very surprised. The next night, Ali met Orochi Doppo, whose face had now recovered somewhat. Orochi Doppo could not believe that he could see the son of Muhammad Ali, even though he had always dreamed of fighting his father. Doppo was challenged to be willing to start attacking this, had several times been hit by this review, making Orochi bounce. But luckily this wasn't a boxing tournament. He would have lost, he said. Now ask Ali to continue the attack on him, this time moving on to the park where Baki and Kazue were alone here. Kazue was very annoyed why Baki averted eyes on his face. Because if I see you can always fall in love over and over again, he said. It makes Kazue very happy. Suddenly, in the middle of the hickey, they were surprised by the presence of Ali behind. Instead of wanting to chat with Baki, Ali comes to propose to Kazue. If that's the case, according to Baki, he has no right to stop it because Kazue really doesn't belong to anyone. Baki, which surprises Kazue, but Kazue confirms that his girlfriend Baki does too. Baki admits it, but that doesn't apply to all men. Anyone can fall in love with Baki's face, and now Baki asks Kazue to choose which one he likes more, and Baki himself. Taken asks Kazue to choose himself. Baki's words also made Ali satisfied, and left them. Ali came to Jack Hanma at the restaurant he was eating to ask him to fight, had refused, but finally Jack agreed. When he was slightly underestimated because until finally they decided to fight in an old building, and without further ado, Jack immediately started attacking. Moving on to the previous Japanese journalist who was still conducting an interview on the legend of Muhammad Ali, but this time, the journalist asked his own personal question. Can Muhammad Ali return because the boxing ring is back to the way it used to be because of the rumors that Muhammad Ali is expected again in his match? But spontaneously, Muhammad Ali stood up doing boxing horses in a remote situation, and the journalist who felt uncomfortable apologized because he did not mean to belittle him. But in fact, Muhammad Ali's fists are still deadly, making the journalist speechless and can't believe he can still use his fists the same as when he was in his heyday. Even so, this was enough to drain Muhammad Ali's stamina and reveal something that made him weak. Back to the old building, finally the fight was won by Jack. Now Ali was beaten up by him. Still, Ali received a lucky strike from the gigantic figure of Jack Hanma, and even his fist split his tongue. But even so haltingly, Ali still asked Jack to continue the fight. Jack, who saw Alia's condition was deplorable, had better leave her. Long story short, 5 days after Ali returned to meet Kazue at the same restaurant. Ali, whose body is covered in bruises and whose tongue has been stitched up, makes Kazue a little surprised and reveals that this was the result of his actions. But before he could express his intention to meet Kazue, suddenly came Shibukawa, who came as if making a promise to Ali. Ali and Shibukawa quickly left Kazue and apologized for making a previous promise to Shibukawa. Long story short, they arrived at a park. Then Ali asked why he took him to this place. Wasn't the previous fight over? But Shibukawa said that it was not a real fight, especially when he was weak. It was clear that he had difficulty accepting it, and now Shibukawa was inviting him to fight seriously. Shibukawa then started attacking and defeated Ali easily. The next day, Ali continued his meeting with Kazue, who had been delayed, whose hands and face were covered in bandages, which turned out to be the result of his fight with Mr. Shibukawa, but already. Then, from the side of the window, Orochi Doppo appeared who came to meet him. Ali was forced to apologize for leaving Kazue a second time until they finally stopped at an empty field where Orochi Doppo asked him to fight again and asked him to end the fight in 3 minutes. Because usually those who pass through this area every 5 minutes, then Ali asked if he had beaten him in the last battle. Doppo admitted it, but what's wrong with him wanting to fight back? This time, Ali was easily beaten by Doppo. Long story short. The next day, Ali returned to meet Kazue, who had been constantly delayed. Now Ali's condition is very deplorable with bandages everywhere, plus using a cane because his leg was broken. But with meetings that always fail, and Ali's condition that gets worse at each meeting, they unknowingly meet each other more and more. In fact, according to Ali, because of these frequent meetings, they get to know each other, for example, like Kazue, who likes lemon tea, and himself likes hot coffee. Another one of their frequent meetings is as if they have a habit that unknowingly happens often. Kazue, who often sits near the entrance, and himself, who has his back to the entrance. But Kazue doesn't want to be deeper because he keeps his feelings for Baki. Long story short, that night, Ali was back in his hotel room. Suddenly the waiter comes and reveals that someone wants to meet him, which makes Ali very curious. It turned out that it was his father who was waiting for him, which surprised Ali when his father came to Japan and asked why he came here and finally came intending to fight his own son without boxing gloves, he said. Ali had refused and was confused because they had not seen each other for a long time, but suddenly his father asked him to fight. Moreover, his father had not fought for a long time, but then only revealed that he had been practicing walking for 18 months, followed by punchboxing training and even fighting himself with experienced fighters. But again, Ali refused because his condition was not possible to fight, but hear. His father was very disappointed to think Ali was a coward. He didn't dare to fight this 60-year-old man, and he was even sick. Shouldn't a martial artist be prepared to fight in any condition and situation? But here Ali complained that his condition was very embarrassing for his father and asked him to quickly go to his room. Feeling belittled, he was said to be a coward. Ali was willing to fight, and in the end, he winced, as if he had succeeded in provoking his son's wrath. Then Ali Jr. ran towards his father. He had to receive a quick punch to his face. Even though he is old, and after 5 years his cruel and hard hitting illustrates a very extraordinary training, Ali is surprised by his father's abilities, but this is just the beginning. By receiving successive attacks from his father, Ali fell. But unfortunately, Ali is still slow and weak, said his father. A few moments later, Ali, who was recovering in his room, suddenly came Tokugawa, offering Ali to fight with Bagi Hanma, the strongest human candidate. But here his father seemed to be provoking his son, that his son did not have such courage and he would always find excuses to avoid. But feeling offended while kneeling, Alim accepts the challenge. Moving on to Tokugawa's residence, who was with his envoy, who said that Baki accepted the offer to fight with Ali and would fight as hard as he could, he said. It made Tokugawa a little surprised. Meanwhile, Ali himself is still trying to train his fists, even though his arm is full of bandages without stopping. Long story short. In the afternoon, Ali met Kazue. Kazue asked if Ali would fight with Baki. Kazue also asks if Ali hates Baki. Of course, Ali really hates Baki because it's good to have Kazue and hold the name of the strongest human candidate in the world. While both of them are things that Ali wants, then he has to pass through the wall set over. On the other hand, Tokugawa met someone who had fought with Muhammad Ali, the legend, and Tokugawa asked who would be the winner in this fight for Dan Ali. In this condition, Igari, who had lost a tournament against Muhammad Ali, the legend, believed that his son had inherited his father's abilities and that Al Jr. would definitely win. On the other hand, Master Orochi Doppo and Shibukawa believed that the winner in this tournament must be Ali. Long story short, Ali came to the tournament building. In the car, the driver appreciated Ali for going to fight with Baki, while Ali himself, if he excluded his father, Baki, who had the title of the strongest man on earth, was worried. Arriving at the tournament building, Ali was immediately escorted by Tokugawa's assistant to the ring arena, feeling a little worried about Baki. But suddenly someone jumped into the arena. It turned out to be a tremendous jump from Yujiro Hanma, which surprised the audience with his presence. After talking about the strength of his son Baki, someone who will one day challenge him too. But suddenly Baki came asking his father to step aside from the arena, and Muhammad Ali was also watching his son's fight. Now Yujiro will start the signal for their fight to start. Baki approached Ali slowly and started attacking him. Only one attack by Baki succeeded in overthrowing Ali. Not long after, he regained his senses, and many asked whether to continue or not. Ali, who got back up, confirmed that the attack was Baki's last attack. He is ready to fight to the death as his father taught him to punch before he is punched, kill before he is killed. But Baki immediately attacks Ali's testicles, which makes him fall down and in pain. Still not satisfied, Baki locked Ali's neck with his arm as hard as he could, causing Ali, who was now on the verge of death. Suddenly, Muhammad Ali, his father, came, who immediately stopped Baki. Baki is honored to receive a review from the boxing legend. Muhammad Ali came quickly, otherwise he would surely die, said Baki. Muhammad Ali himself knew that, so he stopped this fight and apologized if his behavior earlier was impolite, knowing that Ali Jr. was no longer able to fight. Baki turns around and challenges his father, because Baki wants to quickly end his dream story where teenage Baki tries to beat his father. It is known that Baki's own mother was killed by her father Yujiro Hanma, and now Baki, who has grown up, is ready to challenge his own father. Hearing that, he was excited as Yujiro knew that there were many incidents that turned his son Baki evolve to be very strong. In other words, Yujiro thinks Baki is worthy of being his opponent. On the other hand, Orochi Doppo and Shibukawa failed to predict this tournament. It turned out that Baki came out as the winner. Realizing that Baki is getting stronger, then the news about Yujiro, the title of the strongest human being, thinks that Baki is worthy of being his opponent. Meanwhile, at the police in Japan, Shinoda and the others have been shocked by Yanagi's prisoner, who has fled, leaving the guards to die horribly with broken faces. Then one of the prison guards who survived told me that at that time, Yanagi wanted to transfer him to the hospital for treatment. He was escorted by fully armed police, but who would have thought that Yanagi, who was like a mentally ill person, attacked them blindly. A few days later, Shinoda reports on the escape of their death row convict Yanagi to the Inspector General of the police. Knowing that, the general directs Shinoda to examine prisoners with the same case before worrying if they do the same thing. Meanwhile, Dorian himself was rehabilitated at the Bailin Temple, where he was in China, where Dorian studied martial arts until he earned the title of Kaiyu. Arriving at Dorian's room, Shinoda was shocked when Dorian was painting candy. In addition, Dorian's painting, which is selling well in the market, said the guard. Dorian's new hobby made his posture change slightly because Dorian was depicting without a chair, the same position as Chinese martial arts practice. But Shinoda had a bad feeling about Dorian. These two weren't rehabilitation, but rather had big plans that Dorian had prepared, which was clear from his gaze. Switch to a prison housing Doyle, where the prison is pitch black due to budget cuts. The chief warden revealed that once Doyle was a prisoner here, he didn't need lights or sound, because blind Doyle burst his own eardrum. He doesn't want to rely on his hearing, but he will train his senses and instincts to read the situation near him. Doyle uses his skin as a sense of touch to feel and read situations nearby. The fact that it worked clearly implies a big plan to be carried out by Ada, according to Shinoda. Then Shinoda visits a prison on a remote island where the warden says there has been no suspicious activity with Sikorsky. But it's just that the warden was shocked by the strength of Sikorsky's fingers, where at that time the warden who was patrolling the coins fell and entered Sikorsky's locked room. But soon the coins came out round. It was like crumpling up paper, and even Shinoda looked up to see Sikorsky clutching a plain wall without a foothold or anything to hold on to. Transfers to a hospital where Speck is being held. One of the most brutal and evil dead convict. But he finally lost his fight against Hanayama, making his age decrease and rapidly making him like his original age, and now Shinoda is shown how Speck's body development. A graph where the red color in the image is a muscle that represents body temperature, which starts from the smell, then spreads throughout the body. A very quick change later, the doctor revealed to Speck himself he was lying in the hospital. Speck's muscle movements in his body keep moving like someone who is swimming in the ocean with the butterfly style. But this time it's not water because the movement is so strong, it's like swimming the butterfly style in a sea of slime, which obviously requires extra energy if you want to swim. Doctors estimated that his muscles slowly, without estimating his bones, made his body slowly recover as before. Seeing these phenomena together implies to them that the previous synchronization phenomena will reoccur and prompts Shinoda to investigate the case further.